You're constantly immersed in a timeline, a path that seems to be the only one available to you. But what if I told you that this timeline is just one version of your life? And it's not the only one right now all around you. There are infinite possibilities vibrating in the quantum field, other versions of your life, all just a step away, waiting to be manifested. These parallel realities are available to you, yet many people remain stuck, constantly reliving the same cycles. They encounter the same problems, face the same frustrations, and wonder why nothing ever changes, even though they crave something different. Let's break this illusion right now. You are not trapped by fate, destiny, or bad luck. You are not stuck because of some cosmic force or some grand mistake. You are stuck because your mind, body, emotions, and energy system are still attuned to the old version of you, the version that has been replaying the same patterns. You can't break free by just wishing for it, nor can you escape by forcing your way out. Quantum shifts don't happen by grinding harder. They happen when you step into a new state of being so fully, so coherently, that the quantum field has no choice but to mirror back a new reality. Let's clear up some common misconceptions. Most people think manifestation is simply about desire. They believe that the universe will grant them their wishes if they want something badly enough. But here's the truth that's rarely shared: desire alone does nothing in the quantum world. The quantum field doesn't respond to how badly you want something. It responds to how aligned you are with the frequency of what you desire. You see, right now, even if you're saying the right affirmations, creating the perfect vision boards, or visualizing success, you might still be signaling the old timeline. The reason for this is simple. Beneath the surface, your body is programmed for the familiar. Your nervous system is addicted to old emotional patterns. Your subconscious is broadcasting signals of fear, doubt, and scarcity, despite your conscious mind telling the universe, I want abundance. I want love. I want success. Here's the most mind-blowing part. The quantum listens to the dominant signal. Not the loudest signal, but the dominant one. Let that sink in. The quantum field doesn't pay attention to your conscious affirmations if your body is still in a state of contraction, fear, or doubt. For example, you can say, I am wealthy 1,000 times. But if your body tenses up with anxiety every time you think about money, the field picks up on that tension, not the affirmation. You can visualize love, but if your heart is closed off or guarded, the field will mirror back isolation, not connection. This is why so many people remain stuck in the same loops. They believe change happens externally, through circumstances, actions, or results. In truth, quantum shift begins inside with your internal state, coherence, and alignment. In order to break free and step into a new version of yourself, you must become the version of you that already exists in the timeline you desire. And here's where it gets even more fascinating. Quantum physics teaches us that all possibilities already exist in the quantum field. Every timeline, every version of you, every outcome you could imagine, all of them are already vibrating in the quantum. But here's the key. When you shift your vibration, you're not creating something from nothing. You are collapsing into the version of you that has already been waiting. This is why visionaries, mystics, and great thinkers like Nikola Tesla have spoken of the power of frequency numbers and energy fields. Tesla famously said, if you only knew the magnificence of 3, 6, and 9, you would have the key to the universe. These numbers point to universal patterns and the fundamental truth that reality organizes itself around vibration. Now, the real question isn't how do I get what I want? The true question is who do I need to become vibrationally in order to align with the timeline where my desires already exist. And becoming isn't about pretending. It's not faking it until you make it. It's about a full body, full soul shift into alignment. It's becoming so grounded in the version of you that already has the life you desire that there's no longer any resistance. Before we dive deeper into how you can embody this shift, I want you to take a moment to reflect. Think about today. What version of you has been making your choices? What timeline have you been feeding with your attention, your energy, your thoughts, and are you ready to let go of the version of yourself that's keeping you locked in the old timeline so the new one can emerge? Pause and breathe into those questions. Allow the feelings they stir inside you to come up. Feel where the resistance might be and where the opportunity for change lies. Because in the next part of this journey, we're going to explore the hidden forces that have been keeping you locked in the same cycle-resistant subconscious patterns, emotional imprints, and how they've been hijacking your attempts at change. This is the layer that many people overlook, the part that explains why so many understand the theory of manifestation, but never actually experience it. Let's break it down. The reason people don't shift isn't because they're lazy or because they don't want change badly enough. It's not because they are doing manifestation wrong. It's because they are still entangled with the version of themselves that is wired to survive in the old timeline. And this version of you, though outdated, is comfortable. The subconscious mind loves the familiar, even if that familiarity is rooted in survival rather than thriving. The old timeline doesn't need your permission to keep playing. It only needs your participation. Every time you react in the same way, tell the same story, expect the same outcome, you reinforce the old patterns. It's like a neural pathway that gets worn deeper and deeper until it becomes automatic. Soon, the old timeline is making the decisions for you. This is where quantum physics and neuroscience intersect. In quantum mechanics, the observer effect explains that when you focus on a particular possibility, you collapse a wave of potential into a solid reality. But here's the catch. You are not just observing reality with your eyes. You are observing it with your beliefs, your emotions, your expectations. Now add neuroscience to the equation. About 95% of your behavior is driven by the subconscious mind, which holds your emotional conditioning, trauma beliefs, and identity patterns. This means that even if you consciously want change, the subconscious, which is running the show, most of the time is still tuned into fear, scarcity, and survival. And when the subconscious is aligned with the old timeline, the quantum field responds to that, not the conscious desire for change. This is why so many people find themselves stuck. They try to manifest from their conscious mind, but the 95% of them that is still governed by the subconscious keeps pulling them back into the old reality. So when people say manifestation doesn't work, what they're really saying is that they haven't yet shifted the internal observer, the part of them that is collapsing the reality. Now here's where things get interesting. The timeline cannot shift if the observer hasn't shifted. So what is keeping you locked in the old timeline? Often it's resistance. Resistance shows up in subtle ways: overthinking, procrastination, emotional numbness, hyperproductivity, fear disguised as logic, and that voice that says, be realistic. But at the core of resistance, it all comes down to this: your system believes it's safer to stay where it is, even if it's uncomfortable, than to leap into the unknown. And this belief resides in your body. Your body is holding on to these old patterns, these survival mechanisms, and until you break free from them, you will remain in the same loop. But when you allow yourself to stop resisting, to release the grip on the old patterns, you can begin to shift into a new state. The moment you begin to let go of the old timeline and align with the new one, you open yourself up to new possibilities. The key is to become aware of the old stories you've been telling yourself, to notice the resistance when it shows up, and to consciously choose to shift your energy. It's not about forcing the change. It's about allowing it to unfold by stepping into a new state of being. When you stop clinging to what's familiar and start embracing the unknown, you begin to embody the frequency of your desired reality. And when you do that, the quantum field has no choice but to mirror that back to you. You are living inside a timeline, but it's important to realize that this is not the only timeline available to you. In fact, all around you, multiple versions of reality are constantly vibrating, just slightly out of reach, waiting for you to collapse them into experience. Yet, despite the infinite potential surrounding you, most people find themselves trapped within the same loop, reliving the same patterns, facing the same challenges, and wondering why their circumstances never change even though they long for something different. This is where we need to break the myth. You are not stuck because of fate, destiny, or bad luck. You are stuck because your entire system, your mind, body, emotions, and energy remains attuned to the old timeline. You cannot break free by simply wishing for it or forcing it. The quantum field doesn't work that way. Instead, a quantum shift happens when you step into a new state of being, so completely, so coherently, that the field has no choice but to reflect a different reality back to you. Let me break this down further. Most people think manifestation is about desire, about wanting something so badly that the universe will bring it to them. But the truth is, desire alone does nothing in the quantum field. The quantum world doesn't respond to how badly you want something. It responds to how aligned you are with the frequency of what you desire. Even if you are saying all the right affirmations, visualizing success, and creating vision boards, you may still be signaling the old timeline. Why? Because under the surface, your body is still wired for the familiar. Your nervous system is addicted to old emotional patterns. Your subconscious is broadcasting fear, doubt, and scarcity. Even while you consciously say, I want love, I want abundance, I want success, your deeper systems are still in conflict with those desires. This is where most manifestation practices fall short. They are focused on what you think and say, but ignore the deeper energetic components of your system. Here's where it gets interesting. The quantum field listens to the dominant signal, not the loudest one. Let that sink in. Your body and your energy are constantly broadcasting a signal. Your thoughts, emotions, and beliefs all contribute to this signal. If your mind says, I am wealthy, but your body is flooded with anxiety every time you pay a bill, the field picks up on that anxiety, not your affirmation. This is the key to understanding why so many people feel stuck despite their best efforts to manifest. They may think they're doing everything right, but they're still sending out the wrong signal. Now let's discuss the real reason why many people struggle with manifestation. They focus too much on external actions, doing, wanting, and forcing, and not enough on internal alignment. Quantum shifts don't happen from actions alone. They begin with the alignment of your entire system. Your thoughts, emotions, and energy need to be coherent. You must become the version of you who already exists in the reality you desire. This isn't about pretending or faking it. It's about stepping into that version of you with your whole being. Quantum physics teaches us that all possibilities already exist simultaneously. Every version of you, every possible outcome is already vibrating in the quantum field. When you shift your vibration, you aren't creating something from nothing. You're collapsing into the version of you that has always been waiting. This is why many mystics and great thinkers, like Nikola Tesla, have emphasized the importance of frequency and vibration. Tesla famously said, if you only knew the magnificence of 3, 6, and 9, you would have the key to the universe. These numbers and patterns point us to the universal truth that reality organizes itself around vibration. So, the real question is not, how do I get what I want? But who do I need to become to align with the reality where that already exists? And becoming is not about faking it or pretending. It's about a full body shift. It's about embodying the frequency of your desired timeline before it arrives in the physical world. But before diving deeper into how to embody this shift, I want to take a moment for you to reflect. What version of yourself has been making your decisions today? What timeline are you feeding with your energy, attention, and focus? And most importantly, are you ready to let go of the old version of you that has kept you stuck in the past so that the new version of you can emerge? Think about it. Reflect on these questions and let them settle within you. This is where the real work begins. You need to break free from the patterns that have been holding you back and step into the frequency of the person you are becoming. The next step in this journey is to understand the invisible forces that have kept you locked into the old timeline, the resistant subconscious patterns and emotional imprints, and learn how to shift them. This is the layer that many people overlook. And it explains why so many people understand the theory of quantum manifestation, but never experience true transformation. The real reason people don't shift isn't because they are lazy or because they don't want change badly enough. It's because they are still entangled with the version of themselves that is wired to survive in the old timeline. And the subconscious mind loves the familiar more than it loves progress. The old timeline doesn't need your permission to keep playing. It simply needs your participation. Every time you react the same way, tell the same story, expect the same outcome, you are reinforcing the same signal. It's like a well-worn neural pathway in your brain. The more you walk it, the deeper it gets until it becomes automatic. Soon, you're not choosing your timeline anymore. It's choosing you. This is where quantum physics and neuroscience intersect. In quantum mechanics, we have the observer effect, which tells us that the act of observation collapses a wave of infinite possibilities into a single reality. But here's the twist: you're not just observing reality with your eyes. You're observing it with your beliefs, emotions, and expectations. And here's where neuroscience comes into play. Your subconscious mind controls 95% of your behavior, including all your emotional conditioning, trauma beliefs, and identity patterns. So if your subconscious is still stuck in fear, scarcity, and survival, then the quantum field is responding to that signal, not your conscious desires. This is why so many people struggle with manifesting change. They are trying to manifest from their conscious mind, but the other 95% of them controlled by the subconscious keeps pulling them back into old patterns. The quantum field is responding to the dominant signal, which is often fear, doubt, and limitation. When people say that manifestation doesn't work for them, what they're really saying is that they haven't shifted the internal observer who is collapsing their reality. Let me put it another way: the timeline cannot shift unless the observer shifts. And what is anchoring you in the old timeline? Resistance. Resistance is sneaky. It shows up as procrastination, overthinking, emotional numbness, hyperproductivity, fear disguised as logic, or the voice that tells you to be realistic. But at the core of resistance, it all boils down to one thing: your system believes it is safer to stay where it is, even if it's uncomfortable, than to leap into the unknown. And that belief resides in the body. The key to shifting your timeline is not enforcing it, but in releasing resistance and stepping into alignment. The moment you let go of the old stories, the old fears, and the old beliefs that are keeping you stuck, you make space for the new timeline to emerge. This is where embodiment comes in. Embodiment is not a buzzword. It's the missing link. It's the practice of inhabiting the frequency of your desired reality before the external world gives you permission to do so. Let's break this down into practical examples. If you are shifting into an abundance timeline, embodiment might look like spending money with trust instead of panic, breathing through moments of scarcity, or showing up to opportunities with openness instead of expecting disappointment. If you're shifting into a love timeline, embodiment might look like softening your heart when you want to shut down taking emotional risks, or practicing vulnerability even when your old wounds tell you to hide. If you're shifting into a health timeline, embodiment might mean treating your body with care and respect, nurturing it as though it's already healing, moving it with gratitude, and feeding it with love. These practices aren't just symbolic. They are the key to collapsing the timeline. You don't wait for the external world to change before you begin living differently. You start living differently and the quantum field responds. The biggest mistake people make in manifestation is thinking that the shift happens when the external world catches up. But the quantum field doesn't work that way. It reflects back what you are emitting. The power is not in waiting. Is it already done? The quantum shift happens when you stop waiting for it to arrive and start acting from the state of already having it. So the real question isn't when will this change happen? The real question is, can you embody the change now before it arrives? Because once you do, the field has no choice but to mirror your new state back to you. You are living inside a timeline, but it's important to understand that this timeline is not the only one available to you. Right now, around you, multiple versions of reality are already vibrating, just out of sight, waiting for you to collapse them into experience. And yet, despite the infinite potential that surrounds us, many people remain locked in the same loop, repeating the same patterns, experiencing the same results, and wondering why nothing changes even though they desire something different. The reality is, you are not stuck because of fate, destiny, or bad luck. The reason you feel stuck is that your system, your mind, body, emotions, and frequency are still attuned to an old timeline. You cannot break free from this loop by simply wishing for change. You cannot escape it by forcing things or pretending. Quantum shifts don't occur by efforting harder. They happen when you step into a new state of being, a state that is so coherent and aligned with the reality you desire that the quantum field has no choice but to reflect that new reality back to you. Let me explain this further. Most people approach manifestation from the perspective that it's about desire. They think that the stronger their desire is, the more likely the universe will give them what they want. But here's the truth: desire alone does nothing in the quantum field. The field doesn't respond to how badly you want something. It responds to how aligned you are with the frequency of that desired outcome. Even if you are saying all the right affirmations, creating vision boards, or visualizing success, you may still be signaling the old timeline. Why? Because deep down your body is still wired for the familiar. Your nervous system is addicted to old emotional loops. Your subconscious is broadcasting patterns of fear, doubt, and scarcity, while your conscious mind is shouting, "I want love. I want abundance. I want success." Your deeper systems are still broadcasting the old signals. This is why manifestation doesn't always work the way people expect. They might be doing everything right, but they are still signaling the wrong frequency. Here's a powerful realization: the quantum field doesn't respond to the loudest signal, but to the dominant one. The dominant signal comes from your entire system: what you think, how you feel, what you expect, and how you embody your desires. That's why, even though you might say, "I am wealthy" 1,000 times, if your body is tense with anxiety every time you pay a bill, the quantum field picks up on that contraction, not the affirmation. Similarly, even if you visualize love all day, if your heart is armored and closed, the field will register isolation, not connection. This is the trap that keeps people locked in the old timeline. They believe that change starts outside with circumstances, actions, or results. But true quantum shifts begin inside through alignment, coherence, and state of being. In order to shift into a new timeline, you must become the version of yourself who already inhabits that timeline. Not someday, not when the evidence arrives, but right now. And here's where things get really interesting. Quantum physics tells us that all possibilities exist simultaneously in the field of potential. Every timeline, every version of you, and every possible outcome you could ever imagine is already vibrating in the quantum. When you shift your vibration, you're not creating something from nothing. You're collapsing into the version of you that was always waiting for you to step into it. This is why many mystics, inventors, and great thinkers throughout history have spoken about the power of frequency and vibration. Nikola Tesla famously said, "If you only knew the magnificence of 3, 6, and 9, you would have the key to the universe." These numbers are not magic. They point to the universal patterns, harmonics, and the deep truth that reality organizes itself around vibration. You are not just a person navigating life. You are a frequency generator embedded in a responsive field. For so long, you've been broadcasting the same old pattern and have mistaken it for who you are. But here's the good news: you don't have to fight this pattern. You just need to stop feeding it. Let's explore this further. Where are you still vibrating in fear while declaring faith? Where are you bracing for rejection while seeking love? Where are you seeking abundance but still feeling unworthy of it? These are the subtle contradictions that prevent your timelines from shifting. Now let's look at what it really takes to shift timelines, not just in theory, but in real lived practice. The next step of the journey is about aligning your conscious and subconscious, regulating your body into coherence and embodying the version of you who already lives in the new reality. Before we dive deeper, I want to invite you to pause for a moment and reflect. What version of you has been making your decisions today? What timeline have you been feeding with your energy, attention, and focus? And most importantly, are you ready to let go of the version of you that has kept you locked in the old reality so the new one can emerge? Sit with these questions for a while and let them stir something within you. This is where the transformation begins. The real reason most people don't shift is not because they are lazy or don't want change badly enough. It's because they are still entangled with the version of themselves that is wired to survive in the old timeline. And the subconscious mind has a deep attachment to what is familiar, even if that familiarity brings pain or frustration. The old timeline doesn't need your permission to keep playing, it simply needs your participation. Every time you react the same way, tell the same story, or expect the same outcome, you reinforce the same signal. It's like a neural pathway in the brain. The more you walk it, the deeper it becomes. Eventually, that pathway becomes automatic and you're no longer choosing your timeline. It's choosing you. Here's where quantum physics and neuroscience intersect. The observer effect in quantum mechanics tells us that the act of observation collapses a wave of infinite possibilities into a single reality. But you are not just observing reality with your eyes, you're observing it with your beliefs, emotions, and expectations. Here's where neuroscience comes into play. 95% of your behavior is driven by the subconscious, which holds all your emotional conditioning, trauma beliefs, and identity patterns. So most of the time, it's not your conscious intention collapsing the wave, it's your subconscious programming. Let that sink in. You're trying to manifest from the 5% of you that is awake and aware, while the other 95% of you is still programmed for fear, lack, and survival. The quantum field responds to the dominant signal, and that dominant signal often comes from the subconscious. This is why manifestation seems to fail for so many people. Their conscious mind is striving for change, but their subconscious is still rooted in old patterns. You can change your external circumstances, your job, your partner, your home, but if your internal frequency hasn't shifted, you will find yourself trapped in the same emotional patterns, perpetuating the same cycles. External circumstances cannot override an internal frequency that hasn't changed. The timeline can't shift unless the observer shifts. So what's anchoring you in the old timeline? It's resistance. Resistance is sneaky. It shows up as procrastination, overthinking, emotional numbness, hyper-productivity, fear disguised as logic, or that voice that says, be realistic. But at its core, resistance is simply your system believing it is safer to stay where it is, even if it's uncomfortable, than to leap into the unknown. And that belief is stored in the body. Shifting your timeline is not about forcing it. It's about releasing resistance and aligning your entire system with the new frequency. The moment you stop feeding the old patterns, the new timeline can collapse into your reality. Now, how do you practically shift your timeline? It starts with embodiment. Embodiment is the practice of inhabiting the frequency of your desired reality before it arrives. It's about living as though you are already that version of yourself, not waiting for permission from the external world. If you are shifting into an abundance timeline, embodiment might mean spending money with trust instead of fear, breathing through scarcity, or showing up to opportunities with openness. If you are shifting into a love timeline, embodiment might mean softening your heart and being vulnerable even when your old wounds tell you to hide. If you are shifting into a health timeline, embodiment might mean treating your body with love and care, nurturing it as if it's already healing. You start living as the version of yourself who already has the desired outcome. You don't wait for external circumstances to change before you begin. You begin living differently, and the timeline shifts to meet you. This is where many manifestation efforts fail. They're conditional. People often say, "I'll feel abundant when the money comes." But the quantum field doesn't work that way. It reflects you, not your desires. The true shift happens when you live as if your desired reality is already here, even when the external world hasn't caught up yet. So the real question is, can you embody the frequency of your desired reality now? Can you hold that vibration even when nothing has changed in your outer world? When you can do this, the quantum field responds, and the timeline you've been trying to create collapses into form.